Hi! For this video, we're going to take a look at how we say nouns in a Unity system. I'm going to be using Unity 84 sequenced, but the same pattern applies to any version of the Unity sequence software. As we explore nouns, it's time to pick up a few more of our one-hit words in the system. So if we look over here at our noun key, we have the letter A, or the word A, or A, that we can say just by that quick one hit. It's a quick hit word. I also have on my adjective keys the word an, and I have the word the. And when you think about when we use that est adjective form, where the is, we say somebody is the fastest, or the slowest, or the best. And so it makes sense that that's on there. So now that we know how to say and an, the, let's look at how we can say some specific nouns in the system. Let's go ahead and start. I'm going to start with the dice key. And we know that our category noun is game or games. Across the top, we have something called a dynamic activity row. In fact, it's dynamic in that it changes depending on the noun that we, depending on the icon that we select down here below. We selected the dice, and so we get game-related vocabulary in terms of specific nouns. Now, I'm thinking that my favorite game is Scrabble. So I select my dice and I look up here and I don't see Scrabble. So how am I going to find that word? There's actually a couple of different ways. Do you see this more icon? If I select the more icon, I will scroll through the activity row. It changes and I look, but I'm still not seeing Scrabble. So I select it again and there it is, Scrabble, on that third activity row. Now, depending on how many nouns you have in a category, you may have to scroll and scroll and scroll, especially for a category such as jobs. But there's a quicker way to get to those nouns that might not be in that first activity row. If I select the dice, I can come up to this category for games. And here I have a page of game-related vocabulary. So I can go right to Scrabble by just selecting dice, games, Scrabble. So it's a little bit quicker to do it that way. The other thing that I want to show you before we move off of the dice is this first key, which is My Games. Now, we learned earlier when we see the uppercase text that it's a pathway key. And that's the same thing when we see a colored background uppercase text. This one took us to Games. If I select the dice plus My Games, I'm actually going to get a blank page. And that is so that you can customize the page for the games that the individual personally likes to play or use that may not have come in the system. I wanted to show you really quickly the jobs icon, or the jobs category, because it is a large category. So you could see if I'm looking and scrolling through, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pages. So if I wanted to say the word priest, I would be much more efficient by selecting the noun key and then going up to jobs and then coming down to priest. That's a much quicker way to do that. Another thing that I want to point out on the hammer activity row is that there's a second category associated here. So we have jobs, but we also have employment. And those are words that are related to working but are not specific job titles, such as business and company and boss and meeting. And then the last thing to look at in terms of the hammer icon is that when I select it the first time, I get my jobs and my job-related vocabulary. If I select it a second time, I actually have a second category of nouns. A hammer is a tool. And so my second category is actually tool words. And so here's a whole page of different tools. And I believe that the jobs, the words that we would say in that category actually are a little bit more frequently used. And so that's why that's the first category, and then the tools is the second one. Let's go ahead and explore some other activity rows or some other categories of nouns. We looked at games, we looked at jobs. If we select the book, we have book-related or reading-related vocabulary. So we have story, we have recipe, we have ebook and Kindle and journal and notebook. So all of the vocabulary that is related to things that we can read or write in. Let's take a look at our beverages, right? So juice. So here, you see that there are no orange category keys on our beverages activity row. And that's because there aren't that many beverages listed. So I see tea and hot chocolate and some cold drinks. And if I select the more icon, I get just one more row of vocabulary. So if for some reason you were to add a lot of different personalized beverages, you may decide that you want to add a category page for that. But otherwise, the drinks are pretty self-contained in these two activity rows. Okay, let's do one or two more. Let's take a look at foods, actually. You'll notice with foods that there are actually, all of these are category buttons. And that's because there are so many different foods. And so they're broken down into subcategories. So I have breakfast and lunch items. I have fruit, vegetables, meat and seafood, Italian and Mexican, Asian and Mediterranean, condiments, snacks, and desserts. And also, most importantly, especially for our individuals who come from different cultures, is that we have this My Food page, again, which comes blank and that you can customize based on the foods that the individual's family might use a lot of or eat a lot of. So what you'll notice here is that these keys are orange and have that uppercase text. So again, they're going to take you to a page. And let's do one more. Let's do clothing. So the suit will take us to our clothing. Here we have some pretty basic clothing items. If we go to clothing, we have a whole page of clothing items. But I can also select the materials, and that takes me to the different types of material that clothing could be made out of. So I have silk and leather and cotton. Okay. Now that we've taken a look at how we access those specific verbs, let's go ahead and say a couple of different sentences. Let's go ahead and say, let's say we're playing a little bingo. So we're going to hit the dice for playing.
Playing.
A. Got our noun key. Little, remember, is the adjective associated with the dice. I didn't actually intend to do those all in the same icon, but it works out nicely.
Little.
Playing a little bingo.
Bingo. Playing a little bingo.
Playing a little bingo. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other phrases that we can build. Let's talk about changing our shoes, right? So change, again, we do with our clothing. So suit, changing.
Changing.
And I'm going to select the shoe by saying the suit again and finding shoe up in the activity row.
Shoe.
Now I want to say shoes. If I go over to my plural noun key, I have my plus S.
Shoes. Changing shoes.
Changing shoes. Let's say eating pizza. Apple plus ing.
Eating.
Pizza is going to be in our Italian and Mexican category. Pizza.
Pizza. Eating pizza.
Let's say eating good pizza.
Eating. Good. Pizza. Eating good pizza.
Eating good pizza. Let's do drinking tea.
Drinking.
Juice plus up to the activity row for tea.
Tea.
I don't say drinking coffee because I don't drink coffee. Let's say drinking hot tea. Drinking.
Drinking.
Hot, you might remember, is part of our kitchen vocabulary. The stove is hot. The pot is hot.
Hot.
Drinking hot. Back to the juice icon for tea.
Tea.
Drinking hot tea.
Drinking hot tea.
Good. Let's do drinking a cold milkshake. So back to our juice icon for drinking.
Drinking.
A on our noun key.
A.
Cold is going to be back to the kitchen, but an associated icon is the mountains are cold. Drinking cold, drinking a cold, and we're going to find milkshake under juice and up in the activity row.
Milkshake. Drinking a cold milkshake.
Drinking a cold milkshake. How about reading a story? Reading a story is going to be in the book activity row. Reading a story.
Story. Reading a story.
Reading a story. Let's say reading a good story.
Reading
A good, thumbs up.
good
Story, book plus activity row.
story. Reading a good story.
You know what, let's change that up a little bit. Let's say reading a great story.
Reading a
Thumbs up plus adjective.
great
Reading a great story.
story. Reading a great story.
How about, we found in our bed activity row or our furniture activity row, we have all of our different furniture. So we have the word bed,
Bed.
or we have the word chair.
Chair.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of a longer phrase. We're going to say hard bed to sleep on. So hard is with the hammer plus adjective. Hard
Hard.
bed is our bed plus the activity row bed.
Bed.
To sleep, which is going to be our bed plus our verb.
Sleep.
Hard bed to sleep on.
On. Hard bed to sleep on.
All right. Maybe we're feeling a little bit sick, and we need to say feeling a little sick. Our feel word is going to be our mask, so we say mask plus ing
Feeling.
gives us feeling. And if I select the mask, I have all of my feelings words up in the activity row. So I can say sick.
Sick. Feeling sick.
So it's one of the few activity rows that's not a noun base. Let's say feeling a little sick. Mask plus ing.
Feeling.
A
Little.
again, is the dice plus adjective. Sick. Masks plus the sick icon.
Sick. Feeling a
Feeling a
little sick.
little sick. All right. Let's say if you're feeling a little bit sick, you have to go see the doctor, right? And so we're going to say going
Going.
to
To.
the, again, is on our EST key,
The.
and doctor is a job. So if I select the hammer and it's not in my top row, I'm going to just go right here to jobs and find it here.
Doctor. Going to the doctor.
Feeling a little sick, going to the doctor. We have explored a lot of different vocabulary so far. We've looked at nouns and verbs and adjectives and adverbs, and we've even looked at icon families for ways to expand the number of words that we can say. Go ahead and explore on your own, play around, and think of some different things that you can say with this device.